What's up, guys? Runes for Shaco, AD Shaco. I'm just going to talk you through the rune pages that I think are good and that I've been using to win jungle but lose every single game because I've got a 4-20 Twitch in mid lane. Halo Blades, pretty much always. Electrocute is more interesting with the burst you're getting from lethality items, but honestly, like, Halo Blades is just going to be better all around. Nothing else for AD Shac, to be honest. Sudden Impact is really good. You can go cheap shot because of the slow in your auto attacks and your E, but Sudden Impact, like, we just want lethal, right? And because lethality is actually good now, I think this is prime. Options here, Eyeball Collection is the easiest to stack, so go this. Or the only other option here is to go Zombie Ward if you're going Umbral Glaive as like your first item. But Umbral Glaive now is 2,600 gold. You can still get it, but I feel like I would rather spend 2,600 gold because you're really paying for like the passive there because you get the same stats from like lots of other items. So I would rather spend all that gold on a Ghost Blade so then I can actually really snowball with Eyeball. I just think that's better. And I'll get into builds very soon as well. This here, I think Relentless is the best because I feel like games are really fast-paced at the moment and Relentless has even more value than before. If you feel like you don't need Relentless because you're going to have movement speed from like Swifties, Ghostblade, again, I'll get into the items you can go. You can always go Treasure Hunter, which is really snowbally, and the extra gold you get from takedowns early game can snowball you out of control. I know I keep saying snowballing, but that is literally what Shaco is. If you're playing like full lethality Shaco, and again, I will get into the build soon. So that's a very standard tree, right? And that's probably going to be your tree in like most games. Now, secondary tree is where it really gets interesting. So we can go Alacrity into Coup de Grace. This is really good if you are against squishy teams. So you're always going to take Alacrity, right? Well, I think so anyway. This is just my opinion, of course. And if the enemy team is squishy, like they have Evelyn jungle, their mid laner is not going to build like any HP. It's not like a Galio with Aftershock. Their support might be like Sona, Soraka. It's not like a Blitzcrank or Nautilus, and you're going to want to FF. You can go Coup de Grace, because they're all squishy. If they have HP, they have Lee Sin jungle, they have like Galio mid, they might have like a Kled top or a Bruiser top, their support is someone tanky. The only squishy champion you're using Coup de Grace on is going to be their AD carry, and it's kind of pointless. You might as well just go this and cut down. It's actually really useful, and you will feel this in your games against tanky compositions. That's the first page, and honestly, like, this rune page here with Alacrity is really versatile. You can go builds, and again, I'll get into them. You can go builds with like Triforce and Hydras and attack speed, maybe Bork. Don't actually think that item is that amazing. But it lets you go any build you really want, whether it's full lethality, whether it's a lot of AD, whether it's attack speed based, like any build you want to go here. This rune page, like the secondary tree anyway, is very versatile. Obviously, like the runes here are always going to be the same, right? For AD and AP, so it's always attack speed and then adaptive force, and just change this based on like the jungle you're facing and the damage mix the enemy team has. Now, the other secondary trees you can go. So I've already talked about Umbral Glaive, right? With Zombie Ward, if you want to go that, no worries, go for it. I don't think it's actually like that great. I haven't even tested it, but I'm just going to say that because Umbral Glaive is like 2,600 gold now, not 2,300. But this is like the other tree that I find interesting to try with AD Shaco, like whether you're playing lethality or any form of AD. It's where you go Sorcery. Now, because there is so much fighting early game, okay, so there's Void Grubs, there's Dragons, there's another Void Grubs, there's Rift Herald still. So before 15 minutes, you're going to be fighting and maybe even team fighting, like 2v2ing, 3v3ing, etc. at least like 3 to 4 times. And this is where Water Walking, I think, is actually the best rune in this tree and really, really valuable. With this, you have 3 options, like 3 legit options. Well, not actually maybe legit. I think this is the least legit for AD Shaco because I don't think you need ability haste on this champion if you're going lethal. It's interesting because I love haste. I think you need haste on AD Shaco, otherwise you're full glass cannon. And that I just don't think is feasible enough to carry games. You need haste to be able to get in and out of situations, and also like there will be times where you queue around the map and your Q will just be sitting there for like 12-13 seconds and you'll be like, wow, I wish I had like a little bit more haste, or if my Q just came back up, or if I had my E here back up, I would have lived. There are so many situations like that, I feel anyway. But yeah, you're going to get haste from your items when you go lethality. So this is kind of redundant for AD Shac. The 2 legit ones though, the real legit ones, are Celerity and then Absolute Focus. So Absolute Focus is insane because you're always going to be going in with your Q and Sudden Impact, etc. when you're full HP, right? Trying to kill AD carries on waves. This is really for mid to late game as well. The other option here is to go Gathering Storm to make up for that. So if you think about it, if we go Water Walking, that's really for like early mid game. I feel like it's most powerful then. In the mid to late game, if you're not getting, like if you haven't got early kills and you're not super snowballing, Gathering Storm is always like the compensation you have. That's why, like, AP Shaco, I'll get into those runes soon. That's the compensation you might need in some games if, you know, you got unlucky or something in early game and you don't have that many kills. But Water Walking, I think, gives you the best chance of getting those kills with the other runes we've mentioned. And then, as your other rune here, Focus is one option, but I actually prefer celerity. So you're going just max movement speed, high tempo Shac, which I think is the best way you can carry games, especially if you get ahead early game. I think you will just win games so much quicker. It just depends if, you know, it's early season, so you're going to find soft enters in like every single game, which is what's happened to me, and it's really annoying. But still, I feel like this build, or this rune page, sorry, with the build I'm about to get into, is actually the best. And let's get into items for AD Shaco first, and then we'll talk about AP. All right, guys, AD Shaco items, here we go. Oh my goodness, I've got to do this with one hand because I'm holding this pillow up so my GF doesn't see me. She's putting me off, man. I get nervous when she looks at me. Right now, Ghostblade, first item. This is full lethality, one shot. So if you want to pair this with like water walking celerity, if you want to unleash in the early game, I actually think this could be the best build. And I will get into lots of variations of this. You guys will have your own opinion as well. This is just what's worked for me and feels good. It's the most important thing, right? Ghostblade first item. And then along with Ghostblade, I think you definitely want to have Swifties here because you can always go for in your runes, by the way, Cosmic Insight with footwear. I was going that at the end of last season, and it felt really nice. But I actually think because the games are such high tempo, waiting for your boots, I don't think it's actually that good at the moment. I just think water walking with boots, with Swifties, as long as you have these two items, you're going to do a lot of damage. So I think you need these two as like your first couple of items. And then after this, I think you need to go the old Cyclo Sword, mate. Lots of people might think Opportunity is good, but I think Ghostblade, the actual active, and the damage you deal with this feels different. It feels really good, especially with Swifties and the movement speed. And then you get the Cyclo Sword. This is basically Prowler's Claw, but it feels even better. That's how I think about it anyway, and how it feels in game. The slow you get on this, and also the damage, you just chunk people. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So I think this is your core, by the way, for like full lethality one-shot Shaco. After this is where it gets interesting. So you can go, I'm going to put this down. What the f am I doing? You can go for Grudge. This item is really good now because it scales with lethality. So where it says the Rancor passive, like gain 0 armor penetration, that armor penetration, obviously that's like a bug, but the armor penetration scales off the lethality you have. So if you have a lot of lethality from your items, you will have more armor penetration. It's a great thing about this build now. So like before you would have to go, I don't know, like LDR, Grudge was never really good, but now they've changed Grudge. So you can see it gives you lethality. Haste is really good, obviously, on the Shac, and then armor penetration based on the lethality you already have. It's actually insane. You want to be timing this item when the enemy champions, particularly those who you're going to kill. So if the enemy Ornn has steel caps, bramble vest, and I don't know, lots of like, you know, armor by level 12, 13 or something, you don't have to worry about the tank top. Worry about the Zhonya's mid laner. Worry about the steel caps Lucian. Worry about like any steel caps on the enemy team, right? You're just trying to look at armor, the enemy champions you can one-shot, because remember, we're looking at one-shot people here. If they're building armor, that's when you go Grudge. After this, you have a bunch of lethality items. You've got Serpent's Fang if they have shields. This is really good. You have Edge of Night as well against skill shot teams. So if you're against stuff like Lux, Xerath, obviously you guys know what I'm talking about there. So Edge of Night is an option, a little bit more expensive than the Serpents, but it's still really good. You also have Axiom Arc in here as well. And then the other one that I think, there's two more items actually that I think are maybe viable. The first one is Eclipse. Now this doesn't give you lethality anymore, but it does give you like a bunch of damage on your first 3 abilities and attacks when you come out of like stealth. And with all the lethality you already have, you will one-shot people like 100% with this. I actually think this is underrated, and I still need to test this a little bit more. But Eclipse is an option, and then you also have Guardian's Angel. Oh yeah, and obviously Opportunity. I forgot about this as well. So Opportunity and Grudge, these are always going to be, I think this is cool, like every single game. It just depends when you want to build Grudge or Opportunity, right, based on the enemy team's armor at that point in the game. So please be aware of that. And then all you're doing here, like with your last item, just depends on what you need. If they have a lot of shields, Serpent's Fang. If they have a lot of skill shots and you feel as if like you really need the shield to block that, then Edge of Night. If you feel like you're snowballing and you don't need to worry about anything, and the game's really chaotic and stuff, and you want your ultimate on a lower cooldown, Axiom Arc is a possibility. Eclipse for extra damage. It's kind of like Axiom Arc, but I think this will give you even more damage. Again, it depends on armor though. So if you think the enemy team has so much armor, by like 6th item, so really late game, you can always get one of the lethality items because that will scale with your armor penetration from Grudge. So if that's the case, don't get Eclipse, and even Guardian's Angel is probably pointless. You want one of the lethals. And obviously GA if the enemy team is really bursty. Like the survivability item you want is probably GA, especially if they have attack damage, and they're really fed. GA is going to be really useful when you go in and one-shot people to bait them and just to, you know, go again after you come out of it. Now, the other option, guys, for AD Shaq is this one right here, which I actually think is really good for solo queue if you're in Master NA Elo, which is what I'm playing in at the moment, which is super cooked. But it is, like, it's so coin flippy, and there are so many soft enders. It feels like games are just decided by who wants to troll the least rather than who's actually, like, the best on the team. So anyway, what we're going to do is Tiamat, right? And with this, at the moment, I'm pretty much always going Alacrity and Coup de Grace or that build, like with Cut Down, right? Because it's just consistent. It's just versatile. I don't have to, like, you know, lock myself in the Ghostblade and the Cyclo Sword build, even though I could. Like, if I was really far ahead and they're all squishy, I can do that. But I actually think this is better, where you get Tiamat early and you want to get Berserker's Greaves as well. So Tiamat and Berserker's Greaves are going to be like core here. Now, after this is where it gets interesting, but I think Cyclo Sword is the best after this. Again, this is just my opinion. And then what you want to do is go Trinity Force, and after Trinity Force, you can always upgrade the Hydra or the Tiamat into Profane Hydra. After this, you have so many options, man. You can decide to go Ghostblade if you want to. You can decide to go stuff like Spirit Shojin. You can go Eclipse if you want to. There are so many options here, man. You can go more Malmortius if they have a bunch of AP. You can go Guardian's Angel if you want to. You have so many options, man. It just depends on what the enemy champions are building. Like, they will tell you what to build, man, based on what their kit is like and how fed they are and stuff. But this here, the damage you deal is kind of nutty. I just think it's better to have maybe a lethality item with Cyclo Sword. So for those of you who played in Season 8, the Shaco build used to be Duskblade with Trinity Force, and you just sit on Tiamat until like late game, and you would always get like a lethality item afterwards. So maybe Ghostblade, for instance, is what I used to love to get. So it'd be like Duskblade, Triforce, and then Ghostblade here. You are getting like Profane Hydra, right? So there's lethality in this, but I think one more, and maybe you can even go like Grudge as well. Don't ever write off Grudge, like in these builds is really, really OP. So something like this maybe. But yeah, this would be the full build. And I think looking at that looks so juicy, man. Like, it might even be the best build, to be honest, looking at it. I'm licking my lips, brah. But anyway, yeah. All right, guys, AP runes, here we go. This is kind of turd, by the way. So if you've got to play AP Shaco, consider dodging. Anyway, runes. Dark Harvest, Cheap Shot, Eyeball, and a bunch of options here. I like Relentless because the movement speed, once again, high tempo games, it feels really nice. Now, you can go Ultimate Hunter, you can go Treasure Hunter, but I just prefer Relentless Hunter. And as far as your secondary tree goes, guys, I think this will be the most consistent, because I was like testing some stuff where you go something like this, but with AP, ability haste is way more important. Like, if you're going Sork Shoes with Shadow Surge or whatever those items are, Shadow Flame and stuff, even Leandry's, right? You're getting no haste, 0 haste. And AP Shaco has always been about ability haste and baiting champions, putting boxes right, eating champions on repeat. Dealing a little bit more damage or being quicker to a position is not worth as much as ability haste, right? And the actual quantity of cooldowns you're throwing out. So I think it's Relentless, and then you just go this. For me, I think this is best. You can also opt for stuff like where you go Cosmic and then Future, or what is it, Cosmic and Footwear, sorry. But Boots early game feel really nice on AP Shac. To be honest, because I think AP Shaco isn't in the best situation right now, I think it's better to even just like sit on Boots or not even buy Boots, but you're just relying on Relentless. And if you can get some early kills, which is, well, hopefully that's the case, right? If you can kill people who are really low and execute them, that's great. Relentless will carry you. Relentless will give you enough movement speed around the map in the early game until you buy your Lucids. So let's just say, you know, you have 2 kills, you know, on your first base, or maybe a kill, maybe an assist. The Relentless movement speed will carry you until you decide to get your Lucids, or until you get your Lucids, sorry. So your first item, which might be Shadow Surge, it might be Leandry's or something. Rocket Belt feels really bad, by the way. And we'll get into the items very soon. Whatever your first item is, I would just rush it because you need damage, and then you can go into Lucids, right? So yeah, I think rune page for AP Shaco, it has to be this. Now let's get into the AP items, mate. Here we go. AP items, I think your first item rush, I think Leandry's actually feels pretty nice, but you don't get any haste from this item. But I think one setup you can always opt for is something like Leandry's with obviously Lucidity Boots, and then you get this item here, this Luden's Companion. Now you can get this as first item, And I actually don't mind this, and then you get Lucids and then Leandries. But it might even be better if you just swap it around, because the burn damage from Leandries is really useful, obviously, to like clear camps and stuff. So honestly, it's up to you. I don't have like a go-to answer here for you, so it's still up in the air. So you guys will have your own opinions here. Again, this is just mine and what feels okay for AP Shaq. Other items you can build. Where did Leandries go? This thing is trolling me. So you've got that companion thing, you've got this Cosmic Drive. Zhonya's now gives you 120 AP. Zhonya's and Banshees are extremely good items. Banshees now gives you 120 AP, so if you need this against LeBlancs, it just comes in really handy, right? Apart from this, you can always go Morello. You can go Imperial Mandate as well if you want to. You can opt for something like Shadow Flame 2 if you're really snowballing, and if you're like maybe the sole AP on your team, you can always opt for these items. Shadow Surge is the other one as well, but I'm not sure where it is, if it's even called that. I forgot what the name of the item is. Let me just find it real quick. This thing right here, Storm Surge, sorry. I think those are the options for AP Shaq. So that's what I think, guys, for Season 14 at the moment. This is after me playing like 20 games. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like down below. Any questions about the stuff, leave it in the comment section. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, otherwise I'll find you. And thanks for watching, Derby. Bye.